Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, The Smoking Beard Barbecue. Today we're going to kick it old school. I normally do electric smokes. Today I want to do the traditional smoke. I'm going to be doing the center cut beef ribs. So right now what I'm doing the prep work. I have my grill here that I'm going to be using. I did put a little bit of charcoal to start it off. I'm going to let that get a little bit whiter, so that it can actually have heat going through it, and then we'll go on to the next step. But stay tuned. I am going to be taking you through the steps of how to smoke beef ribs, beef center cut ribs, using the traditional method of using a regular barbecue pit without using the electric component of it. All right, stay tuned. So the first thing you're going to notice, what I did is I cleaned out my barbecue pit from the middle, from the inside, and I actually put my briquettes on one side of the grill. Why? Because I'm going to actually be putting my ribs on this side, because you don't want to have it in direct heat. All you really want the briquettes here for is for heat, and you don't want to directly cook them right under the thing. So right now what's going on is I'm actually allowing my briquettes to heat up. I did put the grill up here for a reason. I want it to get hot enough so I can scrape off the grease and the oils from the previous cooks, and then once that happens, we'll go ahead and throw this piece of meat in here. But we are going to be doing the 3-2-1 method, same as always, except we're using a traditional barbecue pit. One of the things that you do want to remember whenever you're going to be doing a smoke is that you want to keep it as moist as possible on the inside of the pit or your smoker. That's why you always want to use one of these water pans. Now what I'm going to do with this water pan is I'm actually going to put apple cider vinegar in there to give it that extra tenderness to it. So what you're going to need for this cook is basically a barbecue pit. You're going to need your heat source, which would be your briquettes, or if you're going to be using regular wood, and you need a water pan. You're also going to need your ribs, of course. And what I'm going to do eventually is, once my briquettes are up and going, I'm actually going to introduce more smoke by adding wood chunks on top of it. But we'll go through that as the video progresses. Alright, so we're in that point of the smoking process where my briquettes have already caught on. I can see a red flame down there. They're starting to smoke more and more. By this time, if you've put your grill on top of that, by now it should pretty much be nice and warm. Now, what I like to do is, I don't know if you can see this, the camera can pick this up, but the grill itself has some residue from the previous cooks. So what I like to do before I put any meat on the grills is actually clean them, but after they've warmed up. Now this serves for two purposes. One, it cleans the grill, but two, some of this dried up fat and all this good stuff that's here, it actually stokes your fire a little bit down there. So if you're wanting to speed up the process of your briquettes catching fire a little bit faster, this would be an easy way of doing it. So all you're doing is you're just knocking off the excess from the top. And if you notice, the flame got higher because of the fat content in the actual stuff that's falling down to where the fire is. Now, about a year ago, I read an article about this little boy who got really sick because he went and he ate some barbecue from a neighbor's house, or a dad. Somebody made barbecue, and they used a wire brush to clean the grill. What happened with those wire brushes is that one of those little one of the little wires of the brush fell into his food, and he ate it, and he got really sick. I think he was okay, I'm not too sure, but ever since I heard that story, I didn't want something like that to happen to any of my family members or friends for who I cook for. So what I went out and I did is I bought myself a wire brush, but that looks like this. It's kind of like circular, and there's no little bristles sticking out, so it's less of a chance for a wire to fall on the grill and then stick to the meat, and then have some type of tragedy happen that way. So just an FYI, if you have those wire bristle brushes, I would strongly recommend you try to find yourself one of these. Like I think I got this one like at Walmart or something. It's about the same price as the other one. Anything is, for me, for peace of mind, it's a lot safer. And I'm only gonna clean this side of the grill, because what's gonna happen right now is I'm gonna actually flip my grill over, because this is the actual side where the meat's gonna be. And you can tell the difference between the grill there compared to what's there. That still has a junk from the previous cook. This grill already is clean. All right. Another staple that we do here in Texas, and probably in other places, but I know this is something that's a tradition. If you ever want to clean your grill, what you could also end up doing is getting a half onion, and once the grill is pretty warm, then you can go in there and clean it off like that as well. So I'm probably going to end up doing that as well, just to be on the safe side. But this is the reason that you want to stoke clean your grill is, one, so you can get that stuff off, but two, it also helps with the acceleration of the heating process down there with your charcoal briquettes. Alright, so as you can see, my briquettes have really caught on, which is good. I already flipped the grill. Now my dirty side is on this side and my clean side is on this side. And I also installed the water pan. Okay, at this point in the process, once you're happy with the amount of heat you're getting off of your briquettes, the next thing you want to do is, you don't have to, but I do, I like to add some wood chunks to go along with it. Why? Because supposedly, not that I'm looking for the ring on any type of meat, but if you want to achieve that smoke ring on any type of meat that you're smoking, one, you need combustion right there. What you're seeing right there is the actual flame. Two, you need actual wood to try to achieve that. So what I did is I got this bag, I think like at Walmart. They're not too bad. What I like about them is that they're pre-cut small pieces. So the next thing you want to do is add a couple of these on top so that they can give you a little bit more smoke. Now again, you don't have to, but I like to do this because I like having a smoky flavor on my meats. So you can go ahead and add these on there. You want to be careful and not add too many, because then that's going to raise the temperature of your of the barbecue pit too much. But 3 or 4 to begin with, and then you can regulate from there. All right. So the next step after you put the wood chunks in there, you can see they're already starting to flame up. The next thing I did is I actually added some apple cider vinegar. You can probably get this at your grocery store. I put the water pan there, and I added, you don't have to be too much because it's only going to be for 3 hours. You add that apple cider vinegar there, and then I put my slab of center cut ribs at the farthest end of the grill. Now, these I bought because I decided to do this at last moment's notice. So I didn't have time to marinate. I didn't have time to season and let it sit overnight. So the next best thing when that happens to you is actually go down to your local meat market, and they already have stuff like this already marinated for you. But I will post a link for those of you who want to know the methods that I use to marinate my ribs and my meats. I will post a link so that you guys can click on that link and see my other videos that go into detail exactly how to actually marinate and for how long you should do these meats. Okay, so the next step after this is pretty simple. You're going to, because it is a charcoal grill, it is not electric, you are going to have to do a little bit more leg work. All right, which means you're going to have to be keeping an eye on the temperature. Now, I installed this temperature gauge. I want to keep this temperature at about 220 to 225, no more than 230. Okay, how am I going to regulate that? I have a couple of ways to regulate. I can close that right there, which is where all the air is going in if it gets too high, the temperature. I can also close this top part here if I need to. All right, so as you can see, the smoke is already going through and coming out this way, which means if I open this up right now, oh, it's already getting smoked in there. You see that? Okay, so now now we go to the waiting time right here, where we're gonna wait. We're gonna go to the 3-2-1 method, meaning 3 hours cooking it up. Oh, one other thing that I forgot to mention: when you put it for the first time, for the first 3 hours, you want to put it with the bone side down. All right, you want to be able to, because if anything, that's where some of the heat is gonna hit. So, which means you don't want to overcook your meat if it's too close to the fire. So for the first 3 hours, you're going to put it bone side down, which means the good stuff is going to be on top and the bone is on the bottom. Okay, so bone side down for 3 hours. After the 3 hours, you're going to come back. Of course, you're going to have to be regulating yourself over here. More air, less air, more wood, closing off hatchets and everything if you need be. After the 3 hours, I will go over with the next step with the 2, which is the wrapping. Okay, when you wrap it, you're going to leave it in there for 2 more hours, and then the 1 is subjective, and I'll talk about that a little bit later when we get to that point. All right. So for those of you who can't seem to get your hands on something like this, or you just don't have the room in your barbecue pit to put something like this, the other option is to get yourself something called a meat probe. And mine is actually done through my phone, so I can be able to monitor it using my phone. This one, what I did is I actually put, this one has up to 6 leads, so I could actually put one for the inside of the barbecue pit. I can put, if I have 4 different types of meats in there, I can put 4 different types of temperatures. It's really good. They all have different options. But the reason I tell you this is because if you don't have room or you don't want to install something like this on your barbecue pit, you can always purchase yourself one of these. Any of the leads, what I did here is I actually opened up the grill here, or the lid, and I just inserted one right on the top here, because this is where I want to know what type of temperature is coming out of here. I know over here is going to be a little bit hotter. Here in the middle is going to be okay, but over here is where I want to know, because this is what's going to tell me if the temperature is where I want it to be. And right now I'm looking at 234. I mean, it's respectable for something that's not electric. To keep it between 225 and maybe no more than 250. Little by little, it has been fluctuating up and down. Right now it was at 235, then 237, then 232. But as long as you keep it in a good range, you should be okay. Again, if it gets too hot for you, first thing you do is the immediate thing to do is if your barbecue pit is too hot, open up the lid. But if it's not so dramatic, if it's not at 300 when you want it at 225, then what you can do is a couple of things. You can actually starve out your fire a little bit by closing all the air vents. Okay, so which means that you want to close. If this were to get to about 255, 260, and I'm not comfortable with it, all I have to do is close this off, close that off, and let the temperature go down a little bit before I reopen it. So one of the benefits of having this Bluetooth meat thermometer probe is that it allows you to monitor the temperature of either your barbecue pit or the meat inside your barbecue pit from the comfort of your living room. Right now I'm sitting inside my living room, and what I did with this particular model, it allows me to set a range. So I told it to notify me when the temperature goes over 250 or below 215. All right, because this is a charcoal grill, it's going to be kind of hard to keep it at an exact temperature of 220 or 225. But if you give yourself a range, it will notify you anytime the temperature goes above your range. Now, if you notice, at some point it did go up over the 250 and my alarm went off. That's how I know I need to go check on my grill. Maybe there's too much air going in. Something's going on, that there's too much heat going in. But right now we're keeping it at an even 250. It's hovering between 248 and 250, and I can be able to monitor this and only have to go outside whenever there is a problem where the temperature drops too much or it goes too high. So we're a little bit over an hour into the cook, and what I started noticing was that I looked at my temperature probes through my phone, and it was telling me it was within the range that I should be at. As you can see right there, I'm within the 215 to 250 range, but you still don't always just go by what you see here, because what's happening here is I don't know if you noticed, but the temperature did go up a little bit over the 250. So what I did at that point is I closed off everything so that the temperature could kind of come back down. Less air means that the temperature goes down a little bit, but you do have to keep an eye on this, because if you don't keep an eye on it, you're gonna notice that there's almost no smoke coming out right now. So this is not a bad thing in regards to the cook itself, but if you want that smoke flavor, you actually have to stoke the fire, open up your pit so that it can get a little bit of air so that smoke starts again. But before I do that, I want to see what the color looks like after about an hour and about 15 minutes of being in the barbecue pit. We're cooking between 225 and 250. We're doing the center cut ribs. So let's see what it looks like so far. Alright, so if you notice, it's starting to get a nice little color to it. I don't want to touch it so far, I just want to leave it the way it is, but I do want to open up. You hear that? This thing is beeping, telling me, hey, the temperature just went down too much. Let's see what it says here, 196. But I don't want this. What I want is I want smoke. So let me just show you what I do so I can get smoke coming out right away. Yes, I know. It's very, very, as soon as I open that, as soon as I opened the lid, it started doing this. But let's get some smoke back in here, because it is smoked ribs, not necessarily barbecue ribs. So let's try to get that smoke flavor going in there. So all I do is open this up, give a little bit of air, open that thing up a little bit, and then we look in here. We know the temperature is good. We just want that little smoke to start coming out again. Now if you notice, most of my briquettes are pretty much gone. I mean, they're here, they're meant for heat. You don't need a lot. I only put in maybe like about a tenth of a bag of a 10-pound bag. So I mean, you don't need a lot. But if you notice, now that I opened it up, here, let me turn this off, because this thing's starting to, I know, it's there, gone. So look at the difference. I opened it up and I moved around the wood chips or the wood chunks, and now we got smoke starting again. So don't freak out. This is going to happen every once in a while due to the fact that you need to be regulating the heat. You don't want it to just go as high as it wants to, because if not, it'll be running hot. Okay, so what you do every once in a while, every 15 to 30 minutes, come back outside, make sure you see smoke. If you don't, especially if you close it off, if you didn't see smoke, just open it up for a little bit, give it a little bit of air, and it starts to smoke again. That way you know that when your meat is cooking, it's getting all that smoke also in there. Alright, so as we're waiting for our 3-2-1 method to conclude, we still have about another hour in the 3-hour part of it. I wanted to show you guys how to create the marinade that you're going to use for when you do wrap your ribs. Okay, so it's a very simple recipe. You can use your favorite barbecue sauce. I personally like Rudy's barbecue sauce. I just don't have any right now, so I'm going to use Sweet Baby Ray's. Okay. The other thing you're going to need is also some apple juice. Okay, so these are the two main ingredients that you need. You do need a some type of measuring cup. You can eyeball it if you want, but the ratio is going to be one part barbecue sauce to 2 parts apple juice. Okay, now if you want a thicker marinade, you can go 1-to-1. If you want a thinner marinade, you can go 1-to-3. But I find that 1-to-2 is a good ratio. So I'm going to go down here and I'm gonna put about, I shouldn't need too much, but I need to be able to measure it. So I'm gonna put about 4 ounces. Again, you don't need that much, especially if it's just one slab of ribs. Actually, if you notice there, I went a little bit over. So then I gave myself 4 ounces of barbecue sauce. So now I need to counter that with about 8 ounces of apple juice. Now, it's not an exact science. If you go a little bit more or less, it's okay. But it just depends on the consistency you want. All right. So we're looking there. I'm just gonna pour that in there. till about 12. All right, so if you notice that you can kind of see it's a little bit over 4, and then we go up to 12. And all we do after this is we kind of mix it in together. Give it a nice little mix. Now this one, what you can do is after you're done with this, since I'm almost done with the 3-2-1 part of the cook, I'm gonna get it ready, because as soon as the ribs are ready, I am going to wrap them, but not before putting some of this marinade on it. Okay, again, simple recipe. If you look at the consistency here, it's a kind of like a watery based consistency. It's not meant to be cooked on the ribs as far as smothering them when you're cooking them on the grill. This is more of a marinade when it's going to be put when you're gonna wrap it. Okay, so again, this marinade recipe was 1-to-2 ratio. You're talking about 1 part barbecue sauce, 2 parts apple juice, and this is what you're gonna end up with if you use kind of the consistency that I got. I can even spill a little bit here so you can see what it looks like, how the consistency. Okay, so it's very watery. Again, it's more of a marinade, not an actual barbecue sauce to put on your actual ribs at the final end. Once you have this one set it aside, and once you're ready to wrap your ribs, this is what you're going to be using. All right, so we're about 2 hours, a little bit over 2 hours into the cook. Just want to give the meat a little bit of a check to see where we're at. Okay, looks good, looks good. You start seeing some of the meat starting to go back in. There goes my alarm telling me that it went below. Nice little alarm, but sometimes you just want to shut it off. You notice having real nice color, real good color to the meat. It's starting to recede a little bit, which means that the meat is getting cooked nice and evenly. We're all going to leave it here for about another hour, 45 to 35 minutes to 45 more minutes. I want to open this up again, so if you notice there's not too much smoke coming out, and I'll leave it here just so you can see how fast the smoke starts to come out after you open it. What I have been doing is I've been adding some of those wood chunks in there to give it more of a smoke. Now, if your goal is not necessarily to give it a very, very big, give the taste of your ribs a big smoke flavor, then the briquettes will be fine. Just keep on adding briquettes to keep the temperature the way it is. But if you truly want that smoke taste inside your meat, you want to add some wood to it, some of these chunks to it periodically for the first 3 hours. Now, once you wrap this, now it's a temperature game. You don't have to worry too much about needing so much smoke in there, because your ribs are going to be wrapped. But before you wrap them, you want to try to introduce as much smoke as you can into the meat, so you can get that flavor of the smoke. But if you rather not, if your palate is more of a light smoke type of taste palate, well, then you don't have to add these extra wood chunks that I've been adding. And as you can see, some are like fairly new, and some of them are already towards the tail end of their lifespan in there. I'll just move them around a little bit, because I do want to achieve a nice little smoke smell and taste to my ribs. So I am going to move it around to try to achieve as much as possible that right there. You move that around. Another thing you can do up here is open this up all the way. Allows more airflow. More airflow goes in, more smoke comes out, as you can see. I mean, that was just in a couple of seconds that I just added that, and look at how much more smoke it's coming out. Right, so I'll be back whenever it's time to wrap the ribs. Right, so it is at this point of the cook, it's already been 3 hours since my ribs have been in my grill here smoking. So your next step would be to actually pull them out, because you're done with the 3-2-1 method. The second step would be to wrap your ribs up in foil and add a little bit of this marinade, which I showed you guys how to set up earlier in the video. I recommend purchasing, maybe not Texas Tough if you're not from Texas, but some extra heavy duty barbecue aluminum foil. This is something that I truly recommend. Buy it once and you'll know why I'm saying I recommend you you purchase this. So you want to get a nice big piece of foil paper. This is a very tough piece of foil paper, which is what you want. This is what you need. Alright, the next thing you want to do is you want to open up your grill. Now for this part, let me turn this off because it tells me that I opened the lid. Okay. So what you're going to want to do here is you're actually going to want to put a little bit of that marinade on the bottom of your foil. So you can get the meat that's on the bottom. Then you want to grab your tongs. This already passes the bend test. Now for this part of the cook, it was with the bone down. Now for the second part, you want to put it with the bone facing up. All right. So you see how by putting some of that sauce underneath, that marinade, it helped me by doing this. Okay. So that's that. Then the next step is to smother. I mean, if you're not going to use any more of this marinade, might as well just use it all. There's no point in throwing this in the trash or throwing it out. Might as well leave it all in here. Just kind of smother it all around. And then you're going to want to wrap it. Wrap it in here. In there. You try to keep all those juices nice and put in right in the middle. You want to keep it as tight as possible. Now notice how I didn't flip it, do anything to it, because now I know that my meat is on the bottom. So now the next step would be for the next 2 hours, put it back on your grill. Now you really don't have to worry about so much the smoke because you've already gone through that process. If you want to just add briquettes from this point on, perfectly fine. Just keep an eye on your temperature. Make sure it doesn't go anything over 250. I would recommend 225, no more than 250. Give it a couple of hours and then we'll see what these babies look like after the 2 hour second method from the 3-2-1 method. We're at our final stage of our 3-2-1 method, or as I sometimes like to refer to it as 3-2-none, and I'm going to explain what I mean in a little bit. But we have your, if you guys recall, we have your ribs over here. They've been on the grill. They were on there for 3 hours. And then we pulled them out. We pulled them out and we put some marinade on it, and we folded them back. And now we're going to pull them out. This is 2 hours after having them been in here. 2 hours after. Now the one method, and I'm going to explain what the one method is, but I'm going to give you some cool little tips or tricks that you can see of how your ribs are going to be coming out. So I'm just going to open this up. Right now this is kind of hot because I have something going on over here. If you want to know what that is, check out my channel. I have other videos and you can go ahead and subscribe and figure what that is out. But for the sake of the rib portion of this video, these are the ribs that we pulled out and we put that marinade on it. All right, so they've been there for 2 hours, and I'm going to pull these out very gently because it's happened to me before where they just fall apart. So I'm going to pull them out. Look at, if you recall the receding line of the receding line, and that's okay if it gets messy there. We're outdoors, no problem. The receding line of the bone, now look at where it's at. It used to be at the very end. Now, I mean, this all the way over here, now it's over here. Now the reason I say the 3-2-1 or the 3-2 none method is because it really depends on you. I honestly like very, very soft ribs. Some people like them to have a little bit of pull. Some people like them to have a little bit of crisp. This is where the one comes into play. Now, if you like a very, like a shelly type of cover to your ribs, what you want to do at this point is you want to put these ribs back on the grill, smother them with barbecue sauce, and give them about another hour. If you don't like them too tough, give them 30 minutes. But if you're like me, I like them nice and soft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip the one method because I don't want them to stiffen up at all. I want them to be nice and soft. Now, as you can see, these are like pretty much falling off the bone right here. I haven't even done anything to them. The next thing I wanted to show you is how to cut them. Now, you could technically cut them down the middle. Boom, 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 you're done. But in order for it to look nice and meaty, I like to skip a bone, which means this is my first bone. Here's your meat, my first bone. I'm going to go to the very end of the first bone and cut it there. That, to me, is one rib. Let me see if I can get you a better camera angle to this. But that, to me, is just one solid rib. Look at that. Nice and meaty. All right? So that is one rib. You're going to get rid of this one. Right? You don't want this one. This one can go to the dogs. So all that meat is still there. Then I'm going to skip and I'm going to come and cut it down here. Look, I didn't even have to do anything to it and it came off by itself. That is another solid piece of rib. That is nice and loaded. Has a little bit of a smoke ring there. It has a nice crisp to it. Man, these things look good. What do I do next? I get rid of the next bone. Right? Get out of here. Look at that. Clean, clean bone with almost very little effort. Okay, then I get and I try to slice as much of the meat off of this one. Now this one looks to be like the best one of all. Check it out. Oh, the bone just came out. Literally falling off the bone. See you later, sucker. So there you go. All meat. All meat. This one just came off by itself. Here you go. And the last one is going to stay by itself. Now that is a way you cook the 3-2-1 or sometimes the 3-2 none method on your ribs. You're going to get nice and tender ribs. Again, if you want to, you can put them back on the grill to get a little bit stiff, but to me, nice and soft is okay with me. So I'm going to take these puppies in and go ahead and enjoy them. All right, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and I will get back to them as soon as I can. But once again, this was a Smoking Beard Barbecue. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't done so you can keep up with the latest and greatest. All right, thank you, guys.